Hey guys, hey guys. I think we've got live there. We are, first of all, it's good to see you all. We're doing something we've never done before. So you are here on the initial, I'm going to call it experiment, our launch of what we're going to call the Dr. Cloud Show. And there's a little bit of a history to this, and there's a little bit of a present context. And hopefully, depending on you, actually, there may be quite a bit of a future here. So, a little bit of the history. I actually started doing a lot of the things that I'm doing, like kind of public facing with content, talking about life and our relationships and all of that stuff. I actually started doing that on radio way back when, way back when, shortly after I'd first gone into practice, and I loved live radio. My initial launch into this was on a 4 hour call-in radio show that a station gave us, and then another weekly show, and we did that for a while, and then a handful of years later actually launched a new program that was on KKLA in Los Angeles. And we were just going to do a drive time call in show where you can call in and talk about, whatever issues you want to talk about. And then that worked and did another one. It got picked up in syndication. And I did live radio call in for about 15 or 20 years, actually. I was 4 years old when I started that. So anyway, I did live radio for a long time, and I always loved it. And basically, what happened was I ended up moving about an hour and a half away from where the show was, and it just kind of didn't work for a lot of reasons. But I've always missed it, and so roll the clock forward to present context. We're sitting here in the COVID land, right? And I've been holed up here in my house for a while, doing a lot of different kinds of work, but was started doing some live webcasts and doing some live call-in interviews and things like that. And it just kind of occurred to me. Now, this is what a great team I have. Okay, this is how good my team is. This idea occurred to me yesterday. I thought, wait a minute, if we're doing live hangouts on Instagram and Facebook, I wonder, it seems like, given today's technology, why can't we do a live call in radio show? I mean, everybody's in their cars and they listen to Spotify over the phone. You stream stuff over your phone all the time. And so, if we did a live call in radio show that people could listen to in their cars or at home, or we'll save it and you can listen to it later, but people can actually call in when we're live and ask questions and talk about problems. Why don't we try this? So, I called my team. I got a shout out to, Greg and Jessica and Albie yesterday. I said, how do we do a live radio show on the web and have people be able to call in and take callers on the air and broadcast that and save it? And they said, let me work on it. Well, got a text last night from Greg, and he said, we're going live tomorrow. So here we are. So this is a little bit of an experiment in terms of learning how to do it, but it's an experiment as well in this way. I have missed live radio, and I would continue to do it if anybody listens. And so we'll be able to track that. And so if you tell your friends, if you enjoy the program, you tell your friends, they tune in, and we develop some sort of a listener base that makes it, worth doing the time for us and you, then we will do this and we'll see where it goes. So having said that, we are going to get to some of your callers, but before we do that, I want to say one quick thing about the context we find ourselves in the COVID world. I've done a few podcasts on this, but I want to remind you of a few things. What happens in a context like this, a catastrophe of this pandemic, this crisis, is your whole world changes, right? Your whole world changes, and the map of how you do life gets interrupted. And when your brain has one of its maps interrupted, then it throws itself into this alert status, and it registers as an error. That's what it says. It says error. And what that actually means is that the way you normally do stuff, the brain is saying something's wrong, and all these stress hormones and all this other stuff get activated, and your system's on really, really RPM high alert until the error is solved and you either make a new map or somehow we resolve it. And so when that happens, sleep disturbance, appetite disturbance, anxiety, depression, worry, fearfulness, sometimes relationships are problematic. You can't think as well under crisis and stress. Some research has shown there's about a 30% drop in your IQ if the crisis is hard, is bad enough, because we're not thinking when we're in fight or flight mode. And so what you got to do is you got to reset that system. And you're going to reset that system in a lot of different ways. But real quick, a list here is you got to make sure you're connecting with people, because this pandemic has interrupted your connection. So schedule that. I'm scheduling them. I have friends that I call check in with regularly. Tori and I have hangouts with couples, and just make sure you're doing that. I just got off the phone with a CEO who's doing every morning. He does an hour call with his team every single morning, and they check in, see what they did yesterday, what do they need to adapt to today, but they're checking in. Second thing is you got to get some routines. I want you to start getting up at the same hour every day, like you would go to work, and get up and kind of get dressed or go to your workspace or schedule some tasks during the day, and make sure you're adding some structure and some routines to your day. One of the things we've been doing as a family is we'll have family dinner at the same time every night, and everybody comes in beforehand, and we prep together, and we have dinner together, and then we have game night, and we'll do something fun. And that kind of routine has really been grounding, and we need some other stuff like that. Every morning I get a list, and I put down the 3 to 5 things I have to make sure that I drive that day forward, the calls I'm going to make. Just adding some order to everything makes your brain work better. And then thirdly, make a list of what you can't control and surrender that. All the stuff you're worried about that you can't control. Okay. Worry about it if it doesn't overwhelm you. Don't want to scare you too much if it's too traumatic. But worry about it for about 5 minutes and then surrender it. Give it up. Say, God, I can't control all this. You got to control it for me. Okay. And do that. And then go to the second list. And the second list is all the things you can control. And these are the things you can control about making sure you're careful and this, that, and the other. But it's also the projects and the things, activities that you want to do. These are things you actually have control of. That this is where the radio show came from. I was making a list of, okay, I can't go do my normal work. What kind of work can I do? What do I have control of that I can actually do? So it started doing more FaceTime, lives and Instagrams and all of that. So there are things that you can control. You can write letters, you can start projects, you can take an online course. There's a bunch of stuff. Get back in control, okay? And then make sure you're practicing your spiritual practices and your mindfulness and all the ways that you calm down and relax. We can go into more of those as we go on. So let me see here. I'm going to ask Greg if we have a caller here. Greg, can you tell me if we have a caller? I think we do. Yeah, let me see. Now, I told you this is kind of an experiment today, guys. I'm hanging out, and I got to hear from Greg. Yeah, we have Ben calling. I don't know exactly where Ben is calling from, but Ben, do we have Ben on the air? Ben, are you there?
Hey, Henry. Yeah, Ben Bennett, Josh McDowell Ministries.
Hey, Ben, how are you? Good to hear from you.
Yeah, good to talk with you. How you doing?
Well, we're doing something new here, so I don't know if this is working or not. We're gonna have to. I can't see. I can't see the page. I think we're on our YouTube channel, and we're on Facebook, and we may be up on Instagram. I'm not sure, but I don't know. So I'm having fun anyway. So did you have a question for us?
Yeah, totally. So during this time, it seems like on one hand, many spiritual leaders are telling us to get the most out of the season of quarantine, pushing accomplishment and growth. While on the other hand, some people are saying to take care of ourselves, to accept that this season is full of loss and trauma. So how can we balance honoring our grief and our losses while also pursuing growth and not wasting the season?
It's a really good question, I think, for people in all contexts of life. And I want no matter what you do out there, whether you are in a company selling stuff. I just got off the phone with a CEO who's in retail, and they're having to really, really work about how they move things forward and take advantage of this and find new ways to reach customers. I know I was on the phone yesterday with a pastor of a large church, and they're looking at how many ways that they're getting really really innovative and reaching out to people. That they're actually having one-on-one calls with a lot of people as they join the chat rooms, and they've actually, in some ways, they've increased their work into new avenues. And here's an example. Doing this show right now, right, this
Hmm.
is a new way that it's kind of like all of us have to look at what do we do and how can we drive this forward, and how do we use this as an innovative space in order to do that. Now, having said that, you bring up another point. That's the other side of this. And the other side of this is you can't do that if you're stressed and depressed and all this stuff that's going
Mm.
through our heads, and we're worried, this and the other. So you've hit on something really, really important, and that is, I kind of hate the word balance because it almost makes things sound 50-50 when a lot of times they're really not, or 100-100. But I think each individual is wired differently. And so for some individuals, Ben, this particular crisis is going to strike at the structures of what kind of makes them feel good and what kind of makes their life work. And it's going to throw them into a little bit more of a needing to attend to how they're feeling and how they're
Mm.
coping. Other people that are doers, I talked to a CEO last week who said, I hate this. I can't get out there and move things and take charge and all this. It's like his biggest angst is he wants to go do more and he can't. And then I talked to another woman who owns her own business yesterday, and she was really, 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 really in a lot of pain because because she lives alone. She's single, and
Mm.
she hadn't seen a lot of her friends. And this was tapping into some really old stuff for her from her, even her growing up years, when she was uh, in a family really that isolated her. And so I think
Right.
what every person's got to do is you got to get a 360 pie chart of your life. And you got to look at these different kind of, segments, pieces of the pie. How am I doing in my primary relationships? And that's one place you take an audit of. How am I doing in my work? Am I giving it the attention it needs? How am I doing in my health? Am I giving it the attention it needs? How am I doing in my own spiritual well-being and emotional well-being? And I'd like to see people just make 4 or 5 kind of accounts that they have to make deposits into in this time. And I think if we look at it that way, then that'll help. Is that helpful?
Mm. Yeah, so good. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. And thank you for, you will forever. I should send you a note. You will forever be the first caller on the Dr. Cloud Show. This is a historic moment.
Historic.
So
Appreciate it.
it's good to talk to you.
Thanks for the
Let's
help.
see who we have left here or next here. See, now when I used to do a radio show like this, we had the studio and you got the screeners and you got all these screens. If you go to Dave Ramsey, for example, it's like this. It's amazing. It's amazing what Dave does. Well, I'm kind of sitting here in my dining room, and I've got an iPad, and I think we probably should have somebody coming up. Let me type this in. We will get better at this, guys. I promise you. If we continue to do this, and you guys like this, we will get better at it. And I'll have a little screen that'll say, I'd like to say hi to Cameron. Do we have Cameron? She might
Hi.
be on the. Hey, Cameron, how are you doing?
Hi, good. I'm so glad you're doing this.
Well, tell me where are you? Where do you live?
I'm in Texas. I'm right in between Dallas and Fort Worth.
You know, when I heard you first come on there, I didn't think you were from the Bronx. So
Is it
you're
that bad?
no, it's not bad at all. Are you kidding? I'm from Mississippi and I lived in Texas. So, but I got a question for you.
Nice.
You're in between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was there, anytime I got close to being in between Dallas and Fort Worth, I was doing a beeline for Joe T. Garcia's. Is that restaurant still there?
Oh yeah, Joe
Oh
T's
yeah.
always.
Okay. Joe T's. All right. Well, if I'm ever back there, I'm gonna give you a shout out and say I'm going to Joe T's. So what is your question for us today? First of all, how did you
Okay,
find out?
well,
How did you find out about this? Because we just put the
well,
word out.
I'm a big cloud follower, and I was actually couldn't sleep last night and stayed up late. And on one of the platforms I follow you on, I don't know if it was Instagram or Facebook, I'm not sure. It just, talked about, hey, if you've got a question, email here and just write in and we'll email you back and we'll go from there. So I asked the question
And it
they
did
got
it?
right back, and it worked.
Well, here we are. So what's your question?
Well, I have an in-law question, and finding your boundaries book last year was so life-changing for me. And I am going through the process of setting up my boundaries and have been for about a year, not 2 years, actually about a year, and it's been so helpful. But it just can get so awkward with my in-laws because
Do they live nearby?
Yeah, like 2 miles.
Oh, isn't there
Yeah.
a national in-law, like regional, like law that says, how close they can actually be? I don't know what the number is, but I think everybody has one of those in their head, right? There is some number.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
So what?
So sweet because they
I'm going to jump ahead and say my hunch is that your right number in your emotional world is more than 2 miles. So what's going on with the relationship? How can I help?
So I just need to know, and I haven't gone no contact. I don't need to divorce these people, right? There just needs to be clear boundaries to where you can't walk into my house and say the things that you say or
well give us an example. Like what are they doing?
You call and invite them over, and it's, oh my goodness, look at this hardwood floor, it's dirty. Or do you know you have a chip in your countertops? Or
do you have to pay them for these services, or is this consulting free on their part?
The last thing was we invited them over to grill out burgers, and I was pattying them out, and I've been into the family a good 25 years. They were our youth pastors growing up. I met their son at 14. We were high school sweethearts.
Cameron, come on, you should know how to. You've had so much practice. You should know how to handle these people by now. So what
But that's the thing. I just feel like we never launched. There was never the separation time where they've seen me grow up. I'm not 14 anymore. I'm almost 40.
That's true.
You can't ask to re-patty the hamburger I just made for you. That's rude. I just, you know what I'm saying? There was just never this crossover to where they stop youth pastoring, stop parenting.
Wait a minute. I don't know. Stop. Just stop. Hold on a second. I don't know any job description for a youth pastor that says, and you should re-patty the hamburger patty that the kid in your youth group just did. So they've got
no. That's me being their daughter-in-law now. It's just the input just doesn't stop.
Okay, so I'm going to start with what would be normal. Okay. There's a lot of normals, but one suggested normal. And you tell me kind of what's wrong with that. Okay. So you've got a continuum here, right? there are people in our lives that are goofy. Okay, that's a technical term. They're goofy,
Okay.
and and we kind of like when we interact with certain people, we just kind of know when they walk in the door, Goofy just walked in the door. Okay. That's just kind of part of it. All right. So when so and so is going to come over, I'm going to put on my Goofy helmet, so the Goofy
Okay.
doesn't give me a headache. And they just kind of roll with it. And when they try to grab my page, that's all right. I got it. I got it. And we go on and it doesn't hit a button. Okay. Because we've gotten rid of all the
Okay.
buttons. So that would be kind of what's normal. And then if they do stuff that's really, really hurtful,
Yeah.
then we have to do something different. But comment. Okay, so I'm going to be you. Okay, you walk into my house, right, and you start to
Okay.
comment like they comment, and I'm gonna give you what I would think a normal response to Goofy looks like.
Okay.
You be them, and I'll be you.
Okay. Um, ding dong. And let's pretend like you're coming over to my house. So you're me and I'm my mother-in-law,
Yeah. Come on
right?
in. Come on in.
Okay.
We've been expecting you guys. Come on in.
Well, hi. Oh my goodness, I barely recognize the place. We haven't been invited in such a long time. I don't even know which room I'm in.
Yeah, well, I can give you a map. Do you need one?
Okay. So, okay, I can be cheeky back. Okay.
No, I'm being you. Stay in your role here. Come on, play with me for a
Oh,
little
this
bit.
is so hard. Oh, it would just probably be a laugh like, oh, but well, it's so good to see you guys. Oh my goodness, it's so dusty in here. You should call me the
Nick,
next time you need help vacuuming.
yeah, well, it seems fine to us. But do you guys? Can I get you some sweet tea or something? What do you need?
Well, you know what? I should probably brought my own sweet tea because you don't make yours with sugar. You use sweet and low.
Do
So
you
no,
do,
just
do
water
you
if
need
you
to?
have
Hey,
it.
mom, do you need to run back and get some of yours? Because I mean, we can wait on you, or I can give you water. It's fine.
Oh
What do you
no.
want?
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. I don't mean to hurt your feelings. Don't be sensitive.
Oh,
I know. I don't mean to hurt your feelings.
my
Aspartame just
feelings
gives me
aren't
a
hurt. But if
headache.
you don't like my tea, you don't have to drink it. But let's go into the other room the Cowboys are on. And okay,
Perfect.
so hit pause. See what I'm doing
Okay.
here? I'm not getting hooked,
Okay,
right?
see, that gave me so much anxiety even doing that because, I don't know, for some reason I just got anxiety even reliving that.
Cameron, we
Okay.
just got to the problem.
Okay.
Okay,
What
now
is the
here's
problem?
what you got to. Whenever we're building boundaries, all right,
Okay.
the first thing we have to do is we have to clean out the internal buttons that somebody is pushing in order to have the control over us that they have. All right. So I want you to think of your your um your head here. It's sort of like your computer. All right. Now, or
Okay.
say an iPad or an iPhone. All right. So on your iPhone, you've got some apps, right? Now, when I double click on that app, then something opens up and it runs a program. All right.
Okay.
Now, here's the deal. If you have a program in your head that says when mother-in-law or anybody else double clicks on that app and makes me feel bad or criticizes me in some way, okay, now I got to
Mhm.
open up that program and feel bad. And now I got to placate them and make an excuse and hope they're comfortable and not have them frustrated and all of that. And that app starts to run.
Yes.
Okay, so if you get rid of that app or you just rewrite the app and it says, when mother-in-law comments on my floor, I'm going to go, yeah, kind of, it's fine for us. And you move on. If that's what the app says do, and you don't have those hooks inside, and maybe that app
Yeah.
is also connected to former people in your life or the history with them or whatever. You've got to get clear in your own head first. And that's number one. Number
Mhm.
two is I want you to go sit down with somebody and do some actual role plays like I just did with you.
Oh, okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
because I actually get anxiety, then I get angry and like I don't know if this is allowed, but inside I just have like a big middle finger up. That is the honest truth.
No, I believe you. Well, the reason you're going to have a big middle finger up is because you feel intruded on, right? And basically,
Yes.
all that big middle finger that's good anger that can't be expressed in a good way. And so, what anger is, it's a signal that something is wrong. And so,
Okay.
we use our signals to tell us this really bugs me. And I'm going to use that to go forward and step up to the line and say, I like the dust. Mom, I could save some of it for you. You want me to put it in a little plastic bag? You could take it home and do some of your own. Do that. So if you step up and use your feelings as a signal that it's time to set a boundary, then you're going to be able to do this. But I'm telling you, you're probably not going to do it as well if you don't role play it and practice with somebody first, and then that'll help you. So I got to go to another caller. But are you a member of Boundaries.me?
I don't know. I mean, I will be. I will look for that and become a member.
Go to Boundaries.me. Okay, it's our platform.
Okay.
And I've got and I add new lessons every month. I've got like 70 or 80 little lessons on everything from dealing with in-laws and extended family to anxiety and this, that, and the other. Go check out Boundaries.me, and I promise you there'll be something in there that helps you with this. But thank you for being our second caller in history. How about that?
Yay! I'm so glad you did this. Thank you so much.
Okay. Call me again. Tell me how it works. And if you want to, stick your mother-in-law on the phone. We'll talk to her. Okay. So, Greg, I'm going to go. Let me go here and see who we have. We all the way from Central Maine. We have Leslie. If I can get her. Leslie, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I am.
Leslie, you're number 3 in history
Woo-hoo!
On our new radio show. How about that?
Fantastic.
Hey, I got to tell you something. Now,
Sure.
where are you from in Maine?
Bangor.
Where's that?
Bangor, central, middle, sort of
Central?
the left.
So,
yeah.
I had never been to Maine before, and a number of years ago. And one summer, our extended family, we went to it's not really a family camp, but it's a family resort kind of, and you get your own little cabins and stuff. And it was on Lake Sebago. Do you know that lake?
I am not actually a Mainer.
You're not a
am
Mainer.
from away.
Okay. I got you. Well,
yeah,
I was going to compliment. I was going to
but
compliment
that's the
Maine
thing.
because it is so incredible. It was so amazing. I'm a big Maine fan now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's not why you called.
Yeah.
What is your your question?
It's a little bit why I called. All right, so I'm going to try and give you a succinct version of the background and then get to the question.
Okay, we got to go fast, because we're on live radio, and that means short calls.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, I bought a house in Bangor, and I had a longtime friend. She and her family were out of work, and their lease was running out, and they moved in with me to help me fix up the place. We had a 3-year plan, 3.5-year plan.
A 3.5-year plan for them to live with you?
Yeah. And to fix up the house. It was anyway. So within a year or so, it became clear that she was neglectful of her kids, disrespectful of her husband. She eventually started yelling at me as well as the husband and the kids. And I asked them.
No, wait. When you say neglectful of who, your kids or her kids?
Of her own children. She was neglectful of her own children.
Her own children. Okay.
Yeah. Financially irresponsible. Never cleaned a thing. So I asked them to leave. They got a job, moved out, and that was a little over a year ago.
So the problem is solved in terms of their living there. They're no longer there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the husband stuck out the relationship for another 6 months. And then he left the relationship. And he and I have maintained a friendship, and I have tried to be supportive of him while he's getting out of what I consider to be an abusive relationship, an unhealthy situation.
So he's divorcing her?
He has, yes, it's final.
Oh, he already has divorced her.
Yes.
Well,
So, yes. But through the whole process, I made an effort to, as I say, tried to be supportive, helped him, through the court process, helped him. He's living in a shared space as well now because he can't afford his own place, and so he comes back here with the kids every other weekend, or did before COVID-19, during his visitation weeks because they know me and they know the house. So he would bring them here.
Okay.
And in various other ways, just tried to be, emotionally supportive while he's trying to rebuild his life and support the kids. So a couple of weeks ago, we were having a conversation. It was our last sort of in-person visit, and he's very depressed. He's struggling financially. He's not seeing the kids because of the virus situation, and he was just kind of ranting about all of the things that are wrong with his life. And he's in a difficult situation, and I don't deny that. But he started to make comments about how he was better off before he left. He can't handle being alone. He knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. So he's separated from her. He's got a life he didn't expect was going to be like that. He thought he was getting away from the pain, and now he's got a different kind of pain. So what's the question?
So the question is, I kind of snapped during that or after that conversation because this is a new town for me. I don't have a support system here. My support system is all long distance. I've given him as much energy and time and money and the kids and all of that kind of stuff as much as I could. And he was standing in my kitchen telling me that he was better off before. And I just kind of snapped. So my question is, when you're trying to support somebody who is trying to improve their life, whether it's, this kind of getting out of an abusive situation or whatever, where's the line? How do you know? Because I responded to him in anger.
Well, hold on a second. You started a sentence there. How do you know what?
How do you know how to set a boundary? Because on the one hand, I want to be.
You want to be helpful, but you don't want to be enabling, and also you've got your own life, right? So
I've got my own life, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to divide this up into three kind of piles here. Okay, so you want to be supportive. All right, now if you go back to the original boundaries book, one of the things we talk about there is in the laws of boundaries. One of the laws is the law of responsibility for and responsibility to. 4 and 2. Now, the objects of those words are responsibility for yourself and responsibility to others. And everybody has to live under this law. I mean, this is like gravity. This is how we're designed. We are responsible for ourselves. Even an infant has responsibilities that a mom cannot do for them. Now, think about this. A mom is responsible to the infant by bringing the milk, or the caretaker, whoever's doing this. That's what she or he can do. I can bring you the food. The infant has to suck. The infant has to actually take it in. And sometimes when infants have sometimes neurological problems and other problems, we have to actually stimulate them to do their responsibility in this relationship so they can actually thrive. Okay, so this is not something that anybody gets off the hook because they're needy. In fact, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is it's out of the book of Leviticus, where it says, "Don't be, don't pervert justice." Okay, in other words, there's things that have to be done right, and it says, "Don't be partial to the needy or defer to the great and powerful," and that's where we lose our boundaries. See, sometimes if somebody's great and powerful and they're screaming at us and angry and all that, then we don't set good limits with them because we're afraid, or they're hurting our feelings, or we need their approval or something. But on the other hand, sometimes when people are needy, then we over identify with their pain, and we don't require from them what it's going to take in order for them to get better. When I used to run psych hospitals, somebody would check in at late one night. They're depressed, and they're thinking, "Oh, I finally, it's now somebody's going to help me, and this has been horrible." And absolutely true. We had all the compassion and empathy in the world for that. We are going to help you. But what happens to their surprise is at 6:30 the next morning, Nurse Ratchet is knocking on their door and saying, "Okay, you got to get up, you got to go to group, you got to go get your meds, you got to get your, go to the community room, sign up for your chores. We're going to start group. I want you to fill out these questions first. You get in group, you got to talk." Yeah. In other words, they had a part to play in it as well. Okay. So when you're thinking of where are the boundaries, what you've noticed is that just listening and just, kind of like being the teddy bear emotionally, that really hasn't helped him get to where he needs to get. So what you have to do is you have to be helpful in a different way. And you might have to sit down and say something like, "You know what, I really care about you, but what I hear from you over and over and over is that this thing is prolonged, and it's not getting better, and you're trying to do it on your own. And I'm a little worried about how depressed you are, and this, that, and the other. And so I don't think I can help with a lot of those things. But what I can help do is I've gone and I've found you some resources here. And here's a pastor you can go to. Here's a psychologist. I got 3 names for you to go visit. Here's a support group. Here's this and that. And in fact, I'll be willing to drive you to an appointment, but you got to make one." And so what you do is you change your role from somebody that's just going to be the emotional support to somebody that's not doing their part to get better. If he's not, maybe he's doing all those things, but if he's not, and then start to set the limits and say, "This is something you got to do for yourself." And there are also some limits that I've got to do because I got my own life or kids or whatever it is. And I can't talk, here's the times I can get together and here's the times I can't. So I want you to think of those buckets, how you can support him, what kind of relationship you're going to have with him, and what that's going to look like. The third bucket is how you're going to take care of yourself. Now, that third bucket, I want to add something because you've been there a while. And you said you don't have your own support system yet. And I want to encourage you to start working on that. Okay. Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll try that.
Is that helpful? I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, this was going to be the year of that I really invested in living here, and the same for him because we live in different towns now, and then we're all on lockdown. So we're doing what we can. It's just it feels like old pattern. Yeah.
Can I encourage you to continue to keep that? This is going to be a year where you begin to unravel from some of this. I mean, you can still be helpful to him in the ways I've talked about, but make this a year of you building a good support system for you. And you could start that. If you can't do it on your own, you can go to places where they hang out a shingle. Say, we have a support group every Friday night, or we have this, or we have that. And I would really encourage you. I want you to call me 6 months from now if we're still doing the show. If you guys like it, you have to tell us if you like it or not. But I want you to call me 6 months from now with a progress report and tell me, look what I built. I did it because I did one little thing each day. All right.
All right. I can do that.
Okay. Thanks for your
Thanks.
call, and eat some lobster when they come online up there.
I absolutely will.
Okay. Okay. So you are listening to the new, and I can't say new and improved because this is actually the first day we've ever done this. But it is the new Dr. Cloud show. If you didn't tune in the beginning, I said, I used to do a lot of live radio, a lot of call in. You might have heard that show. I was on New Life Live for a long time. And then technology has gotten to the place now we're sitting here holed up in lockdown. I said, wait a minute, let's start a radio show. Why don't we do that? And I called my team and Greg and Jessica and Albie, and they went to work on it. Within 12 hours, here we are. We're up and running, and we're actually taking callers. I can't believe this. And so this is a new thing. And I do want to say this to you. We're taking this seriously. I mean, it is something we just kind of started, but we're taking this very seriously. And we want to know if this is helpful to you. We want to know the kind of topics you want to hear me address, because I am going to do some, as we go on, some little content parts of this as well as take calls. But we're going to do this if it's helpful and if people come and listen. Okay, so I don't even have access right now because we don't have a studio or anything yet. We're just starting this. I don't even have an access to know how many people are there, but you can, it's going to be live, but it'll be posted and people continue to listen. But if you send it to friends, and if it begins to get some sort of a following that says, it really is worth it to take this time and block it out and do this, and it's helpful to people, we will do it. So we're in this together, you and us. And if you join us and, get people here, if you build it, they will come, and we'll build a community. And one of the things I love about doing things like this is, it's just like the calls we've already had. Leslie, for example, we learn from each other. And one of the great things about that I love about live call-in radio is we form a community. And what I would like to see is a community of listeners begin to form. It's the same thing that happens on boundaries.me. If you go to the website boundaries.me, you'll find a platform I have on there that's where I become your boundaries coach and life coach in a lot of different areas, anxiety and depression and relationships and reaching your goals and all this stuff. But if you're a member of boundaries.me, you're also a member and have access to these community groups. And it's amazing the way these groups help each other. And I would like to build a community like that here on live radio and hear from everybody and see what happens. So let us know if you like this. And if you do, we're going to continue it. Okay. So I got to say this. If you'd like to call with your question, write this number down. Greg is telling me here. I got to look down and see, the next time I do this, I'm going to put my iPad up like at eye level so I can look over here and like that. And I won't have to look down. So here we go. Greg's telling me, I'm getting all these instructions that are coming across here. If you'd like to call with your question, here's how you do this. You dial 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774. I think that's even a toll-free call. I don't think that matters anymore. Everybody has cell phones. It used to matter. So we got another question. All right. Our son-in-law and daughter have decided not to have contact with us until we step down from our leadership roles in the church. How do we proceed to follow God's call and not lose our daughter and grandkids? Wow, that's a tough one just on the face of it. And I'm just going to respond because I don't know a lot about what's going on in this. But on the surface, okay, I'm going to draw kind of there's a spectrum of stuff that this could be. And on one end, let's just pretend, because whenever I get a question and whenever I get if somebody in any relationship or any problem, the first thing we want to do always is we want to in order to get to the right answer or the best answer, we want to listen to understand. Okay. Now, if they're saying we can't have a relationship with you until you step down from your leadership role in this church, and if I were talking to them, I would say, instead of beginning with, well, why? I mean, people have, various roles in life all the time. We have kids and grandkids, or, friends and jobs and hobbies, and why can't they do both? I would want to know, what is it about our being in this role, that what is it that's so hurtful to you? And I would do that very empathically, because there may be something in it that's really hurtful. Now, I'm going to go all the way on the other end and just, I don't know you, okay? You're the one that's looking for help. So this probably isn't true, but I'm going to pretend, because it can be true in certain scenarios. It may be that, if I'm you, it may be that my involvement in this role has caused me to really not be aware of how neglected they might feel. Okay, that's possible. And I would encourage you first to find out, are they feeling neglected? Do they feel like those things matter? The people of the church matter way more than my own family matters. That's one of the things I have to check out with my kids all the time. It's like, I work a lot, I travel. We used to sit down at family dinners and say, I want you to look at my our family meetings. Say, look at my travel schedule. Tell me how much is too much. And they'd say, well, we don't care if you're gone this much, but we kind of like it, actually. But if you're gone that much, it kind of bothers us. Well, I would have that conversation. And it may be, for example, that they don't feel included. It may be, for example, that maybe they're not of your faith. Maybe they don't share the faith, and they have a problem with that. And you can listen and empathize with that, etc. But I think before you get to the right answer or the best answer here, that what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out what's the real. See, there's something in it for them. This isn't just that you have something else in your life, okay? Because we all have jobs and stuff we have to do. I mean, that's just normal. But there's something about this. And is there something over invested that's taken away from them? Okay. A. Or, I don't know the church you're in. Is it weird? I mean, we got to ask that. Like, have you gone into it's not, I mean, I don't know what kind of church this is. Is it like turned into this kind of like, cult like thing where you can't get out of it, nobody can get in, and they're really bothered by that, and they don't want their kids around that? I don't know. But all I'm saying is, we always, like Jesus said, get the log out of our own eye first before we go to help. So, and now all of that may be absolutely perfect, right? So I'm not accusing you, but just look at those things. Now you go to the other side, and it may be that you're not doing anything weird, and it may be you just sit down and take this out of church and sit down with them and say, well, let's talk about the kind of relationship that we would like to have, you know, and how much time would you like to see us, or how much time, take the church out of it, forget whatever. And we're just going to we're going to say, you're going to have your time and your family time, and we're going to have together time, and we're going to have our time. And we can do whatever we want to on our time, and you can do whatever you want to on your time, but kind of structure the relationship apart from this question. And then on the far other side, maybe they're wanting to control you. I mean, is that possible that they're wanting to say, we just can't be friends or close to anybody that believes in God or believes in that God or whatever? And I doubt that's the case. It's probably the flavor of it that you could negotiate. But if they're saying, we can't be friends with you as long as you're a Christian or a this or a that, then in my way of thinking and in my faith, I would never, ever, ever, I would do everything possible, always to have a relationship with anybody. But if somebody said that they wouldn't talk to me as long as I believed in Jesus, then I would have to say, "Gosh, I'm sorry." And I mean, I can't not believe in him. I mean, I can't not do that. You know, I cannot talk about him around you if it's too offensive. I can do that. So you got to find out kind of where that is. I think somewhere in there like that, there's probably an answer for you. It's a good question. It's interesting. I am a believer in Jesus. I don't hole up in a holy huddle and just hang out in some sort of cult or something. Most of my work is with mainstream businesses and companies and all of that. But I do see this out there sometimes that some people that aren't of my faith look at people in our faith like weird, like those weird people, because a lot of times we are. I mean, frankly, I mean, the church can be kind of weird. And whenever I see that, it kind of grieves me because that's not how our faith is supposed to be at all. It's supposed to be a faith, if somebody says, "Well, I really have a problem with that faith," I go, "Well, what is it about love and forgiveness and peace and helping people that hurt and brokenhearted and the poor and all? Which one of those is offensive to you?" Because that's what we really ought to look like, and I don't think that's offensive. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. So if we are a person of faith and we're ever offending somebody just for doing good, then not much we can do about that. Okay. You are listening to the new and not improved, because this is the very first day we've ever done it, so it can't be improved. We hope to improve it in a lot of ways. Dr. Cloud Show, this is our new radio show. And if you didn't tune in earlier and you're just joining us now, you can go back to hear the beginning if you want. But I used to do a lot of live radio. I did a show for a long time called New Life Live. It was syndicated all over the country, still is. And I miss it. I miss doing live radio for logistical reasons. I couldn't do that show anymore. But now we have the internet, and now we can do this anywhere, anytime. And so here we are. And we should call it the Dr. Cloud COVID-19 new radio show. But yesterday, it just occurred to me, why don't we do a call-in show? Because people were putting questions on Facebook and other places. I said, "Dad gummit, we're going to do this. Or we're going to try to do this." So I called my team, and they are the heroes of the heroes. Greg and Albie and Jessica, I got to say hats off to you for putting this together in literally about 18 hours. And here we are live. So here's the deal. I'm going to continue to do this if it is helpful to you. But that's the only way we'll be able to continue it, is if people are actually listening. So share it with your friends. I think we can do it at the same time. Tomorrow we'll put up a posting if we can't, but we're going to do it again, hopefully, and we're going to get better at it as time goes on. But I want you to call in for your questions. Here is the number: 844-940-2774 is our live call-in number. I can't even believe I'm saying that, because we haven't ever had one of those since I did that a long time ago. Live from Southern California. And we have Lucy calling in from Southern California. Lucy, are you there?
Hi, yes. Thank you for taking my call.
No, I'm in Southern California. Where are you hanging out? Maybe we can have the 6
I'm
foot
over...
away. You can ask your question over the fence, right?
Right. I'm over by Temecula, an hour north from San Diego.
Oh, okay. So that's Southern California, Southeast California. I'm on the other end.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how can I help you? What's
okay.
up?
So I have a sister that she was a caretaker for my mom. My mom passed away about, at least 4 years ago. And my sister is stuck in this deep, thank you. My sister is stuck in this deep, I don't know, depressive state. That's all I could say that it is. She's
how old is
not
your sister?
eating. She's 59.
And
She's
is
not
she
eating well.
married, single?
No, she's
Which
single,
one?
never been married.
Single, never married. And so did she live with your mom before she passed away?
Yes, yes.
And how long did she live with her?
Basically all her life, she never really moved out. She
Oh, she never left home.
she no, she transitioned into this as she went to university, got her degree in business management. My dad actually had a chemical imbalance, and so they were able to get him on medication, and he was fine. I was told that this sometimes skips siblings, and like my sister got the DNA of it, and she'd
What
never been
is there a
diagnosed.
oh, there's not a diagnosis with it.
No,
Is it
but
a
I've
thought
tried to get
disorder? I mean,
her help.
does she have thinking problems or mood problems besides the depression? What's the issue?
No, she's getting well. She's getting along well with her roommate. It's just the caring
Oh,
for herself.
did her roommate
Is not.
live there with your mom as well?
No. My sister had to move because the house had to be sold in the
Okay.
will.
Okay, so
And
has she ever worked?
she did after she got her degree, and then I guess in her late 20s, changes started happening with her. She didn't have a desire to. She had social anxiety. It was like social anxiety.
Okay, so she's kind of been locked up with your mom there for 25 years.
Right.
Without a bigger life than that.
Right.
Okay. All right. So what is your question? We're right up against the clock here, and we're gonna have to stop in a
Sure.
minute. But tell me how I can help.
I really want to help her because I feel like she's dying before my eyes. She's not eating well. She looks anorexic. She
Oh,
says
really?
she's okay. She's fine. I don't know what else to do. I did get, the city health to come out and talk to her. They
You
did
did?
nothing because they said she's not hurting herself. So they said they can't do nothing.
But yeah, if there's not a danger, she's not in danger of hurting herself or otherwise, what they call gravely disabled or something, then there's not a lot that they can forcibly do.
Right.
But what we can do now, was she open to that when they came? Did she get mad at you? Did she like that? What was her?
She wasn't, but I was able to, convince her to just hear what they had to say.
Say that again. She wasn't angry. You kind of went out on me. Say it again.
So she was not really wanting to, but then I was able to convince her to at least just hear them out.
And then she just refused to help and that.
Right. Exactly.
Have you talked to her about getting some other kind of help?
Yes. She said there's nothing wrong with her. She's fine.
Well, okay, so here's kind of what we got. We got on the one end, when I was doing full-time clinical work, a lot of times, this is a situation that's kind of the most difficult because, if somebody, it's almost like if she were worse, then you're freer, right? You can actually,
I know.
you can lock her up or and get her treatment, and then sometimes that starts somebody down the best road ever because
Right.
you can get them involuntarily committed and they find out, wow, I don't have to feel this way, and I'm going to these groups and I'm getting on medicine and I'm getting some help, and it literally changes everything. And then on the other side, if they're hurting but they're open to getting help and you can go get them help, then that happens as well. But she's in that middle ground. And that's where you kind of find yourself sort of powerless. So here's what I think, just some ideas. I would continue to stay connected to her. She visits with you. Does she talk to you?
She doesn't take my calls unless, I mean, I basically find out about her through her roommate. And yeah.
Okay. So she won't talk to you on purpose?
Yeah, she has her phone off.
Okay. So I would stay in touch with the roommate, okay, and tell your roommate, look, if you're ever really worried about her and we do need to do something, I want you to make sure that you promise me that you'll call me. For some reason, she doesn't, I mean, will she talk to you if you drop by there and visit?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, I would do that kind of regularly and just be as helpful and friendly as you can and say, so you know what? If and I'd invite her to stuff. I'd try to get her out of the house, take her to a group, take her to a support group that you go to, take her to do you go to a church or anything that has gatherings where there are people or anything like that?
I live an hour away from her, but yes, I do.
Ah, okay. Maybe you find something close to her, but I would
Right.
do anything I can do. Look, you have control of you. You don't have control of her, but you do have some influence in the middle. And so what I would do
Okay.
is I would do whatever I could do to get her out, get her to things, and maybe some sort of environment where they speak to stuff like this, like a celebrate recovery group, for example, or some other kind of, helpful kind of gathering or seminar where they talk about life issues or some kind of, whatever it is, you can find these, but just drag her because those things are contagious. And
Right.
sometimes somebody will get a little bit of a whatever, and it starts to spark something because you're going to play mostly in that middle ground we called influence. And then send her stuff, send her, send her a link to this radio show, send her a book, send her whatever it is you can do.
Okay.
But remember, all you can do is be an influence at this point and a bridge to if you ever want to talk to a counselor. I found one that's highly recommended right in this area. I'd love to have you go see them. I'll take you there. Continue to be that bridge and in that influence space. That's kind of what we do. But make sure she's safe, and you can do that through the roommate. Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
calling
Thank
and
you.
call us again sometime.
Okay.
Okay. So
Thanks.
you are
Okay.
listening to the new and not improved Dr. Cloud show. It's not improved because this is the first one we've ever done. Today's the inaugural launch of this. And I say launch because we're going to continue to do this if you like it. And if people start to listen, if you want to forward this and people can listen around the clock. And if we see that, it's gaining some sort of an audience, we're going to continue to do this. I'm going to take your calls. Here's a number to write down: 844-940-2774. And I'm going to take your calls on the air, and then those will be, wrapped, and you can listen to this later. And let me just kind of close this out today. We're going to start with kind of an hour and sort of see how that works. But I want to just say a few things about the context we find ourselves in. We're back in the same place we were in a few weeks ago. Hopefully, maybe we're getting a little hope as they kind of start to look at kind of thinking about maybe more stuff we can do with the vaccines and all sorts of stuff. You guys watch the news, but we're still in this. And one of the things I found is that people have stayed in this. And I'm just getting a message here that we do have one more call. So Amy, if you can hang on there for a second. But I found as people have stayed in this for a while, what's happening is that you're going to start to develop patterns because when we're in something for a few weeks, there's patterns that start to develop. And those patterns are going to take root. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to hit pause a little bit today and sit down and ask about your patterns that are developing. Because routines begin to form after we've been in this for the 3 or 4 weeks we've been in this. And do you like the patterns? Do you like the health patterns you're in? Do you like the learning patterns that you're in? Do you like the connecting patterns that you're in, where you're talking to the people you want to talk to enough? Or are you doing enough hangouts? Or do you like the togetherness and solitude patterns that you're in? Too much solitude or maybe too much togetherness as you're holed up with the same people all the time? You need a little privacy. Do you like the activities that you're doing around your work or thinking about future work? So make these kind of areas of life in the columns and look at the patterns that you're starting to develop. One of the reasons we're doing this show is that I noticed the patterns that I was developing over the first few weeks, and so much of it was responsive in nature and reactive to other people needing me to do their, you know, interviews and podcasts and so there, which is great. I love to do that. I'll continue to do that. If you have a podcast or a webinar or whatever you need me to be on, contact us and we'll see if we can do it. And a lot of my client companies I work with, I was doing stuff for them. But I noticed I was in this pattern on everybody else's agenda. And I was thinking, wait a minute, what do I need to be doing in some of my patterns in terms of our own family of listeners and our family of subscribers and the people that we interact with? And I started this week with some new patterns, and you might have noticed with Facebook Live, Instagram Live, putting out some new content, this, that, and the other. And I had to change the patterns of how I was working because I noticed the patterns I'd gotten in were not working well for all of us. You know, you're my family. If you've tuned in here, you're probably somebody that kind of is a member of boundaries.me or Facebook or Instagram or something. And so I've started new patterns and I'm going to be there doing them with you. If you're not a member, a subscriber to boundaries.me, I would encourage you to go there. It's a community where you become a subscriber and I take all sorts of lessons, very structured lessons in how to deal with a lot of the problems we've been talking about today, or anxiety and stress and depression and reaching your goals and leadership and performance and extended family and in-laws and parenting and living with an alcoholic or overcoming an addiction or whatever it is. Go to boundaries.me and you can find us there. So we got one more call and then we're going to do a wrap for today. And we're going to hear from Amy, who's calling us from somewhere in Florida. Amy, welcome to the program.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. First of all, how did you find us? Because we haven't existed before right now.
Facebook. I follow you on the Facebook page, and so I got an alert. So I always tune in.
Oh, very cool. So where in Florida are you calling us from?
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine. Is that the oldest city in the U.S.?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
How about that? Okay. So tell me how I can help.
So, of course, with this quarantine, I'm sure me and along with many other people are spending a lot of time with their spouse. And I just have a relationship question that me and my husband, if we get into a disagreement or, we don't see eye to eye on a particular topic or whatever, it could be small or large coming up, but my spouse.
How long have you been married?
Almost 4 years.
4 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And when a topic comes up, I feel like he gets stuck on the detail and not the bigger picture. And until, like, if I say, well, hey, we were going to do that at 5 o'clock, and he said, well, we did do it at 5 o'clock, and I said, well, no, it was like 5:30. He can't go on past the 5 o'clock, and he gets stuck on that, and he doesn't see the bigger picture. And until I agree or cave in or see it his way, he won't move on from the topic. And it's like, unless I see it his way.
You said if we do, if is this something in the future we're going to do this at 5 o'clock, or it sounded like something you did at 5, you've already done? Help me understand.
That was just like a bad example. It could be anything, like, hey, I went to bed really late last night. I think I had like 2 glasses of wine. And he'd be like, you had 1 glass of wine. I'm like, no, I had 2. No, you had 1. No. Yeah. And it's a very argumentative type. I would almost say like maybe narcissist, but I don't want to throw out, I'm a nurse. I'm not a psychologist. So
we don't know unless we really knew him. And whenever one of the things about that word is it doesn't mean the same thing to everybody else, but he does, he does care a lot about his feeling of accuracy about something when you're like more into the thing, right?
Correct. Very much so. And it's like, if we get into argument and I don't see it his way or he doesn't, at the end of if he doesn't get to his point and it's still at the end, I still don't see in his way, that it's my problem. And then I feel like I'm wrong. I'm like, wait a minute, just because I don't agree with you, it doesn't mean you're necessarily right or I'm right. We just don't see eye to eye. And I have to, at the end of the conversation, see it his way and acknowledge his way was right and I was wrong.
Okay. So have you guys ever talked about this problem other than talking about when it happens? Like, in other words, you can talk about a problem, like we're going to argue about the problem. Was it one glass of wine or two glasses of wine or 5 o'clock or 5:30? Or you can, when that problem is not happening, you can get above that problem and talk about the issue when it's not happening. And have you ever noticed this thing that we do? Like sometimes we'll get in this thing about the specific number
Yes,
of
and he'll
glasses
say
of
it's
wine.
because he's very factual, that he's very
Uh-huh.
factual and I'm very emotionally based. And I'm like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. And he goes, well, no, I'm just factual. I speak facts. And when I speak, it's truth. And it's like the all or none. And I'm like, oh, okay. So,
Okay. And so when you have that conversation, he says, well, it's because this, and you say, well, I'm sure that's true. I'm sure that you do have your facts and you believe those. I have my facts as well, and I
mhm,
believe those. So I'll just call him Joe. So Joe,
mhm,
let's here's what I don't want. I don't when we have different facts because everybody knows if you study cognitive psychology that people are going to look at the same thing and see different things. People are going to hear a conversation and go away with different things. This is just a fact of life, right?
mhm.
When we do have different opinions on something, what's a way that we could have those where we don't end up farther away from each other than
Then where we started.
clo-
Mhm,
than
mhm.
closer to each other? How can we do that? What I would do
Okay,
is I would pose
excited.
that to him as a question. See, because when we're in a conflict, one things we can do is we can play tug of war, or we can get on the both side. We can get on the same side of the table and look across the table at the problem, and then become
Mhm.
partners in solving the problem. And so,
Yeah, that's a great
I,
illustration.
yeah, and say, okay, so we got this problem. Let's put the problem over there. The problem is sometimes we disagree about the facts. Okay,
Mhm.
what's a good way that we could have that happen, and then we still end up on the couch next to each other, enjoying the rest of the night? How can we do that?
Mhm.
Let's
Mhm.
solve that problem. So become a teammate in solving the problem. See if that helps, and maybe you'll call me back
Mhm.
and tell me.
I'm sure I will listen. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling. So that is going to be close to a wrap for our first ever inaugural edition of the Dr. Cloud Radio Show, which we're doing here live from lockdown in my house. I just noticed I've been filming some stuff. There's even a camera. Let's see if I can point to it. If you're looking at that big piece of equipment back there, that for some stuff I've got to film later. But anyway, the point is we're sitting here at home, and a shout out to my team, Greg and Jessica and Albie. Thank you guys for putting all this together. You were amazing. We got the idea yesterday and we launched it. We even have a number now. Our number is 844-940-2774 for the Dr. Cloud radio show. And I'm pretty sure, now I don't have a studio here with a bunch of people helping me. So I'm going to look and make sure that what I'm promising you could actually happen here. And I think it can. Um, yeah, I think we can do this again tomorrow. We're going to be live right here again, the same place. If that changes for some reason, we'll post it on Facebook or on Instagram, or I'll probably do a shout out on Twitter as well, and let you know. But we'll be here live tomorrow. Now, I want you to help us here because I really, really, really need to know this. I need to know if having a call-in radio show where you can call us and talk about stuff, and if that's helpful. I need to know if that's helpful and if you like it, and if you're listening. So if you want this to survive, then you got to come join me, and you got to get your friends, to check it out. Doesn't mean they have to be there live either, right? That's the time you can call in, but people can listen anytime. It's going to be up on those sites and they can go back to it and listen to today's program. So if you join me, I will continue to do it. And if we don't, then we tried something that, just kind of wasn't the best thing to do. In the meantime, go to boundaries.me and become a subscriber. That's my online platform where I enter in and become your ongoing coach in a lot of these areas of relationships and reaching your goals and feeling better and anxiety and stress and depression and addictions and how you fly to the moon and go to Mars and all sorts of stuff. Okay. All right. It's been great to be with you guys, and I will see you next time. And you know what my biggest problem here is going to be figure out how do I say goodbye? I don't even know how to do this. I probably hit a button, but I'm going to ask Greg to do that. Greg, is there any way that you can um, eject me from the driver's seat here? I don't really know how to do that. There's got to be a way to do this. About to do it now. Okay. Bye, guys. Is he going to count me down?